Allison.
Hey, Brie, how you doing?
I'm good. Did you know that there was an alien autopsy? Yeah.
I feel like I saw that on HBO, or maybe that was just Autopsy.
Was it about an alien?
I don't know. They were cutting stuff up.
Because there was a whole video of an alien autopsy that aired on Fox a bunch of times, actually. And it got millions of views. It was a big deal. I should say viewers because there wasn't an internet.
So
then.
views, viewers.
Yeah, it wasn't like views on YouTube. It was like lots and lots of people.
Very high on the Nielsen ratings.
Watched it. Yes, what's a Nielsen rating?
That's how they measure TV.
Oh,
There are certain families are chosen to have Nielsen boxes put attached to their TV, and it actually like records their viewing habits, and that's how we get Nielsen ratings, and that's how you figure out if a show is profitable or not.
When they say the ratings, that's what they're talking about.
That's what they mean.
I did not know that.
Yeah, now you know.
That's cool.
Now you know. But hey, what are people listening to?
What?
This is FLIMFLAM.
Oh, I thought you were doing the intro. This is FLIMFLAM. I'm Brie.
And I'm Allison.
And today I'm doing a FLIMFLAM about the alien autopsy and the whole Roswell UFO incident. It's going to be a two-parter because there's a lot more to this than I realized, and I fell down a rabbit hole, as usual. And so, what do you know about the alien autopsy video? I'm curious. What do most people know?
I have like a vision of it in my head, of it being like sort of like black and white-ish and just looking very creepy in general.
Yeah, it was real grainy.
Yeah.
And there were probably people in, military uniforms and like nurses' outfits and the whole thing getting cut up, right? And lots of gore. So yeah, I remember being a little kid in the video store with my dad, and it jumped out at me from, I think, one of like the new release racks, because it had to be the late 90s. I was in the video store with there were still video stores. It was Phaser Video in Red Bank. And it scared the hell out of me, because I remember it was so creepy looking. It's this, thing with this giant head and huge eyes. And I'm looking at a picture of it right now, and it's still terrifying. But yeah, the alien autopsy video was a huge thing. But before I even get into that, I should probably back up a little bit and talk about Roswell. So you probably know Roswell, New Mexico, as like the UFO capital of the world.
Yeah, kinda. Yeah, that I'm aware of. I was also a fan of that TV show, which was very bad.
Roswell.
Yeah.
I've never watched it. Is it good?
Except for William Sandler, who is the man, and is also he played Death in Bill and Ted.
What?
And he was also the sheriff on Roswell.
I didn't know any of that.
Yeah.
I also haven't seen Bill and Ted in probably since I've seen the alien autopsy video, so that's too bad.
Well, you better rewatch it because you're coming out with a sequel.
I hear good things.
Yeah.
I hear there are strange things afoot.
Yeah, at the Circle
Roswell.
K.
But yeah, so in 1947, so first of all, it's really weird that the UFO crash is even connected with Roswell, because wherever something fell, it actually fell anywhere between 30 and 75 miles away from Roswell, depending on what source you're reading. Wikipedia puts it at 75 miles away. History.com puts it at around 30. And I don't want to like misquote things here, but the National UFO Festival website, of course, puts it at 30 miles away because that's in Roswell, and they want to be like, yeah, look how connected we are to this thing. But yeah, so there's a rancher in 1947 who went out to herd his sheep, either with his kid or with just a younger rancher. I haven't been able to clarify. And they came across something that has been described as metallic sticks held together by tape, and also plastic and foil reflectors, and a heavy, glossy, paper-like material. So something was found, on the ground. It was found closer to Corona, New Mexico. And this rancher and his kid, or the young rancher, or whatever, they didn't know what the hell it was. So they contacted the sheriff. The sheriff didn't know what it was. So they contacted the Air Force, and the local Air Force also wasn't sure what the hell to do with it. They didn't even know what it was. The finding of the thing happened anywhere between June 14th and July 3rd. I haven't been able to, again, get an exact date.
So it sounds like there's a lot of conflicting reports about this.
There really is. Like, even today, there's been lots of different books written about it. There's lots of different websites that have information about it. But it seems that probably the earliest they would have found anything was June 14th in 1947. But eventually they talked to the Roswell Army Air Force, and on July 8th...
The Army Air Force, is that a thing?
Yeah. They call it the Roswell Army Air Force Base. The RAAF is the abbreviation in the paper. But yeah, that sounds weird.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was a thing. Maybe it was then and it's not now. I'm not sure. But there was a press release in the local newspaper saying Roswell Army Air Force captures flying saucer on ranch in Roswell region. So I guess that's why they say Roswell and not Corona. It was the Roswell region. Mm-hmm. Anyway, that was put out by the Air Force information official, whose name I can't locate right now. But yeah, basically, they talked to the sheriff talked to the Air Force okayed this story saying, we found a flying saucer, we found a disc, and...
Yeah, you know.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, the public info official, his name was Walter Haut. I'm not sure.
Haut.
Haut. Walter Haut. And one source I looked at described it as having Scotch tape with flowers on it. So
sounds super alien.
I know, right? That's what I thought. I'm like, how do people look at this? And then they're like, oh, this clearly came from aliens with our flowers on Scotch tape. I don't know. So then a little while later, am I going too fast?
No, you're great. I'm just thinking maybe they never saw washi tape before.
Could be. So a little while, at the very next day, actually, the Air Force changed their story to say that it was a weather balloon, like just monitoring the weather. And
so the Air Force actually approved the press release saying it was a flying saucer?
Yeah. Let me
bring it up.
RAAF captures flying saucer on ranch in Roswell region. Like, I'm looking at the Roswell Daily Record image that's here, and that's literally what the headline says. So they don't say, oh, it's aliens, but they call it a flying saucer.
Which would imply otherworldly.
Yeah. And they call it a capture of a flying saucer. I wish I could read this whole story, but I'm not sure how to get access.
It's a tiny little thumbnail.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. It says here, Army reveals it has a flying disc found on ranch in New Mexico. Weird. I'm trying to magnify that. Oh, okay. The Army Air Force is here today, July 8th, announced a flying disc has been found on a ranch near Roswell and is in possession of the Army. Lieutenant Warren Haut,
let's say.
Haut, public information officer.
That's so dirty.
Of the Roswell Army Airfield, announced that the find had been made sometime last week and been turned over to the airfield through cooperation of the sheriff's office. I'm reading directly from like a microfiche copy. Is that how you say that?
Microfiche, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I've never said the word out loud. I've just read it. Let's see. It was inspected at the Roswell Army Airfield. Measured it to... I'm reading... Haut's statement said the many rumors regarding the flying disc became a reality yesterday when the intelligence office of the 109th Bomb Group of the 8th Air Force, there's some copy lines, it's kind of hard to read. Roswell, fortunate enough to gain possession of a disc through the cooperation of one of the local ranchers and the sheriff's office of Chaves County. The flying object landed on a ranch. It doesn't say, it's from space. It doesn't say...
Okay, so there's no actual mention of aliens or...
Exactly. They just call it...
This is where UFO literally means unidentified flying object.
Right, exactly. They don't say, it's aliens. The Air Force... But they do say a flying disc, which I feel like in 1947 is gonna... That's kind of a... that's gonna sort of set people off a little bit because it sounds like aliens. It sounds really otherworldly, which brings me to... a gentleman named Jesse Marcel. Sorry, Marcel. So the next day, the Army published, or the Air Force allowed publishing of another story, retracting what they had said the day before and saying it was a weather balloon. So things were fairly quiet until around 1978, when a nuclear physicist and UFOologist named Stanton Friedman interviewed Jesse Marcel. So Jesse Marcel was a neurosurgeon just a flight surgeon, not a neurosurgeon. He was a flight surgeon in the military. And at the time of the crash, he was 10 years old. So, this guy's talking about
his memory from childhood.
Right. His dad was in the Air Force. His dad is apparently one of the people who went and collected pieces of this weather balloon, UFO, whatever the hell it was. So Jesse Marcel has done a lot of talking and interviews and books and everything about what he saw when he was 10 years old and what his dad went and showed him. Apparently they brought some of it home with them, and he saw it when his dad brought it home. So Jesse Marcel, he actually passed away in 2013, but to this day, up until, his death, him and his family would hold that the debris was not of this earth. He said that it was not weather balloons that were in use at the time, and he described a small beam with purple-hued hieroglyphics having come from the wreckage, which isn't something I saw your face just go like, what? Like your eyes like did this weird kind of, it was cool. No, but yeah, he was 10 years old. This is recollections from when he was 10. But his father, the actual Air Force guy who, handled the wreckage, didn't pass away until 1983. So if at any point his dad wanted to be like, hey, shut up, I feel like he could have.
Probably would have, yeah.
Right. So there's a book about this called The Roswell Legacy, the untold story of the first military officer at the UFO crash site. It was written in 2007. You can check it out if you want. I might actually at some point, because I think this stuff is really cool and interesting. Right, so the way that this alien autopsy thing is all connected to Roswell is that the creator of the alien autopsy video claimed that it was an autopsy of a body found at this crash site in Corona near Roswell. This thing was found on the ranch by this rancher and his son, or a younger rancher, I don't know. They brought it to the Air Force. The Air Force approved a press release July 8th, calling it a flying saucer. And then the next day, they went and retracted that, calling it an air balloon. So then 1978, we have a gentleman by the name of Stanton Friedman who interviewed the son of one of the Air Force guys who apparently went and collected this thing. And that guy, a flight surgeon, says that the wreckage was not a weather balloon, had hieroglyphics on it, was not of this world, he kept calling it. All this just really, really crazy stuff suggesting that it cannot possibly be a weather balloon, as we know a weather balloon to be. So in 1995 and 97, and this is probably what I'll get more into next time, and then also lead into the actual autopsy video in my next, episode. In 1995, the Air Force, under demands from the Free Speech Information Act, they released something called the Roswell Report, in which they said that it was actually something connected to Project Mogul. Are you familiar with
What
Project
is Project
Mogul at
Mogul?
all? So Project Mogul was a military operation, top secret at the time, conducted to try to hear Russian frequencies in a certain level of the atmosphere, which it's not actually called the atmosphere. It's basically a layer of air in which sound would be transmitted as easily as underwater. So their thinking was they would be able to hear Russian signals from there. So they were testing apparently a weather, I'm not sure if you would still call it a weather balloon or not. I have to read up
But
on
it
it
was
a little
like
bit more.
a balloon type device.
Right, exactly. Like a recording device attached to a balloon type thing and trying to monitor the Russians that way. So in 1947, you can almost see how they would rather for a minute say, yeah, fine, it was a UFO. It was
it's
it was a
totally
flying
aliens.
saucer, than, cause mass hysteria by being like, oh my God, we had to monitor the Russians. So they said that. In 1997, in an effort to further shut down UFO talk, so they issued something called Roswell Report, case closed in 1997.
Mission accomplished.
Right, exactly. Case closed. Shut up, guys. This is what it was. It wasn't a UFO.
Long form title. Shut up, guys. This isn't what it was.
They talked about something called Project High Dive in 97, where they released high altitude parachutes that had dummies on them. So Project High Dive was a thing. They would drop these dummies from really, really, really high up, and then they would, rescue them as fast as they could. And I've seen some pictures of these dummies, and they are freaky looking. Honestly, they have like weird eyes. They have like dead eyes and like big heads. But at the same time, they're apparently like 6 feet tall. So how anyone could mistake them for an alien body does seem a bit weird.
Because as we all know, aliens are all 3 feet tall.
Right, they're all tiny, tiny, tiny people with huge heads and even weirder eyes. And also,
They all look like Baby Yoda.
Huh? Yeah. Oh my God, Baby Yoda does almost look like a typical, like, big-eyed gray alien. But he's so cute. He's so cute, and grays are so scary. So I don't understand that.
You're already calling them grays, like you're in with the lingo now.
Yeah, are you kidding? I've been calling them grays since I was super into this stuff in like 12, 13 years old. But what's weird about the Project High Dive thing with the dummies being dropped, like the case closed story in 97, is that high dive parachutes didn't seem to start being dropped until between 1954 and 59. But the Roswell crash happened in 47. So how would there be dummies, right? Around.
Well, so is it that the parachutes weren't being manufactured for consumers until then? Because, the military always has stuff early. They had GPS in the early 90s.
Mm-hmm. So, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll check into that. I'm not sure if they...
And if anybody's wondering how I know that, I lived with a former Army guy. So
You did? Oh,
yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah.
I
What
didn't
up,
know
Jay?
that.
Yeah.
Oh, and this is fun. So the guy, Jesse Marcel, who talked about, his dad bringing back the wreckage to the house and seeing this beam with the purple hieroglyphics on it, which I haven't been able to find much about those. I might have to read the book.
See, that sounds like Stargate to me. So
I know,
I am
right?
in.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. There are some really cool pictures of them, but like they're all, what's the word? They're all artistic, renderings. There's no photographs that I can find, which is too bad. So there's a book called The Dancing Wooly Masters. Have you heard of it?
No.
I think it was written in the mid-2000s sometime. It's about quantum physics. And this is really fun because it shows pictures of it draws a parallel between electron shells in atoms and the hieroglyphics found on these alien beams. It says, hey, look at these hieroglyphics. Don't they kind of look like electron shells? But that kind of makes sense if you think about it, like if this Jesse Marcel, the surgeon who's talking about all this from the military, if his dad was telling him about the stuff, his dad, who was an intelligence officer in the military, would certainly know about electron shells. And, maybe he like drew it for his son or something. And if it was a Project Mogul thing, his dad would have known about that, but maybe couldn't talk about it because it was top secret until the 90s. So I don't know. It's an interesting parallel that this book draws.
But
when you saw me,
why would Project Mogul have electron shells?
No. What I'm saying is that like if Jesse Marcel's dad was trying to tell him about stuff, maybe he like drew some things for his son, and then maybe the thing he drew was like drawn from the science that he knew about. You know, I'm not saying it was connected to Project Mogul. I'm saying
okay.
that. Right. I'm just saying, like, Dad would know how that stuff works. And, like,
I mean,
hey,
Dad always knows.
let's draw some electron shells for my kid and then call it alien hieroglyphics. He was 10, you know? He was 10. So do you remember everything clearly from when you were 10? Like, do you
No, I have a
believe...
10-year-old nephew. I feel like I should really be messing with him a lot more.
You should do it. You should draw in, like, some science stuff.
I need to bury something
like,
in their backyard, like stat.
just drop a balloon in a field near his house and then be like, oh, man.
I'm like, Brian, check this out.
I bet it's aliens. But
whatever it is, I make it out of Legos.
do it. Make a big Death Star out of Legos and drop it for your nephew to find. But yeah, so the alien autopsy video is connected to the Roswell crash because they said that it was a body they found there. And there's official Air Force statements on all this. In the next episode, I want to go more into how the alien autopsy video was made. I just think it's really interesting that the government kind of flim-flammed us a day after not a day, like a week or two after the crash by saying like, oh yeah, it was a flying saucer. And then a day later, they were like, no, it's actually a weather balloon. And they didn't know what to say about it. That's not a hoax exactly, but it's a little bit of like, they were caught off guard if it was from Project Mogul and they didn't know what to say. So I think that's interesting and cool. And sorry, I haven't really let you say much. I've just sort of been rambling.
No, this is all very interesting to me.
Yay!
Yeah.
But yeah, one source that I read said that the Air Force didn't know what to say when they first found this. So they just said, you know what? Fine, tell them it's saucers. And then the next day it was fine, tell them it's an air balloon. But the most likely explanation, it seems, is that it was a Project Mogul thing, which I'll talk about more next time. And also, there's some weird stuff with Project Mogul, too. So I'll talk about that.
Yeah, I'd like to know more about that. That sounds real interesting.
Yeah, it's a really interesting surveillance kind of thing. And what else? Oh, I called. I was curious about how much revenue this whole thing generates for Roswell right now. As of, hold on, let me see what year it was. As of 2009, Tourism Festival Roswell stuff, the Roswell UFO Festival, which is huge, generated $1.25 million in revenue in tourism. And that was 10 years ago. Yeah. So you can only imagine now it's probably more. I called the festival because I was curious as to whether there was a cost to get in. I spoke to a very nice lady who told me it's actually free, and there's all kinds of paid events connected to it. There's something called the Galacticon Parade, which the whole thing draws like 10 to 15,000 people. There's a UFO museum near it. There's a planetarium. There's all this stuff.
Yep, that's what Roswell, the TV show, also taught me.
Exactly, right. There's a TV show. It's huge. This crash is what blew up this whole thing. And apparently it might have stayed pretty quiet if not for Stanton Friedman interviewing Jesse Marcel in 1978. That was something that I read actually got it bigger than it even was initially. So yeah, there's partnered events with the museum. Oh, it happens between July 3rd and 5th this year. And last year they had a Billy Ray Cyrus concert. It was free.
Billy Ray Cyrus was there. Wow, That'll draw a crowd.
The country singer, right?
Yeah. He had that one hit, and then he had, a daughter.
Today on
that was
FLIMFLAM.
much more famous than him. Yeah.
Oh my God! Yeah. That's who Miley Cyrus is. This whole time, I never knew. I'd never heard of her.
Oh
no, I literally didn't make that connection between Billy Ray and Miley Cyrus. Like I knew it in my head, but when I heard Billy Ray Cyrus
today, have you never seen Hannah Montana?
Oh, that's true. She was Hannah Montana,
and he plays her dad on it.
That's right. I completely forgot. This is how. In my head, too, this is how different Miley Cyrus is now.
FLIMFLAM, bringing you the facts.
Yeah. the important facts about Hannah Montana. Dude, I totally forgot. What I heard was, is Cyrus a constellation? I think it is.
Sure.
That's the connection. I was like, oh, maybe they thought it would be good to have him because of the constellation thing, but also because it's New Mexico, and he's a huge country guy.
I wonder if he's a big Alien fan.
He's probably an alien.
He's probably an alien.
Cygnus. Sorry, Cygnus is a constellation. It's the swan, not Cyrus. There might actually... Sirius is also a constellation. The dog star. But Yeah.
Were you thinking of Osiris, the Egyptian
The god? I don't know, maybe. I was probably thinking of Sirius. Anyway, there's a festival. It's huge for Roswell. The whole alien autopsy thing that I'll talk about next time came out of it. And do you have any questions or thoughts?
I have so many questions.
Oh my God, tell me your questions.
I mean, was this the first time the military had ever run into like a public relations issue?
I don't know.
Like, what is wrong with them? Why would you issue one statement and the next day say, oh, actually, it was this?
Yeah, it's
like,
pretty
by
crazy.
the way.
And that's why there's been hundreds and hundreds of people and military officials and supposed eyewitnesses weighing in on this. And that's why it took me a week, a few days at least, to... First, I just looked up, alien. First, I was going to do cryptozoology, like some kind of cryptozoology flim-flam, and I was like, what about aliens? And then I looked up alien autopsy, and then I saw the Roswell thing. I knew they were connected, but I didn't know there was so much confusion about what happened at Roswell. I mean, I knew there was confusion, but this is a rabbit hole that you could go down for years if you wanted to. There's so much information because the military has said so many conflicting things, and there are so many different science-y and eyewitnessy, very professional wording I'm using here. There are so many different accounts of what was there and what happened, and we don't have any real... I mean, it's not true that we don't have any solid information on it, but
it sounds like the most information we have comes from a 10-year-old's memory.
Right. That or a military that kept changing stories. And also it's 60-something years old now. So,
right.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. But yeah, next time I'll talk more about Project Mogul and Project High Dive and the actual autopsy video, which has its whole own story connected to it.
Wow. Okay. Well, I can't wait for that. Thank you, Brie.
Yay! Thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks for listening, you guys. And
go ahead.
I was just going to say I'm Allison.
I'm Brie. This has been Flim Flam. Allison.
Yes?
I want to believe.
Of course you do, Brie. Of course you do. Thank you for listening to Flim Flam. Please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcast fix. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at FlimFlamPod. Got a Flim Flam you'd like us to cover? Email us at flimflampod@gmail.com.
And remember, if you have ghosts in your blood, you should do cocaine about it.